Going on, guys? We are back live again. This time, we're actually going to mix it up. We're going to talk a little sports because we're dads and we need something else in our lives other than our damn kids in our ears all the time. So we go to sports to give us a little bit of respite from our everyday life. But if you are here, thanks for joining. And Drew, man, it looks like you finally got your camera situation hooked up. So that
I
sounds
think the
good. Nice
internet was
facial
all
hair and all
spotty
that. It
last
looks
week.
like you didn't shave that mustache off just yet. So
Yeah.
glad to have you. Yeah, but I want to talk about this because, like, it's funny. Just to give you guys a backstory, I haven't actually watched like any. In this one, we're talking NBA, right? But I haven't watched the NBA stuff for like since 2019ish. Just because I got like I threw something at the TV, I broke it. Like I can't do this shit. I need to take a step back and relax. But I have been following this year's playoffs because I feel like a lot of it's got a little more exciting. I actually don't mind LeBron being out, and now with like, and it's funny because when I watched it, and Sean, this is probably like you could probably test this more. But when I watched it in 2019, Tatum was okay, right? So Tatum from the Boston Celtics, he was good, but he was okay. He wasn't the next Kobe or whatever, in my opinion, at that time. But damn, dude, this playoffs, man, I feel like he's really killing it. Like him and Jalen Brown have I think hit another gear, and it's like I know it's funny because the title says Golden State Warriors versus Boston Celtics, but realistically speaking, they're still playing the series with Miami. In my opinion, it's been over since like 2 games now. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah. So first of all, I agree with everything you said. Tatum has really come into his own. I mean, since he got here, there's been something different about him.
Yeah.
You're right. He's not trying to be a LeBron. I mean, I think that's the problem. Is like we don't want to compare him to a totally different player with a different style. He just has a sense on the court of knowing where to put the ball, when to put it there, how to play. But I think what the biggest thing that stands out to me right now with the Celtics in general is they're playing both sides of the ball really well. They're playing a lot of defense, like the stealing, the blocking. I mean, it's exciting to watch. And I agree, the series isn't done. But, man, Miami just looks like they have no more heat. And like the kitchen's gotten cold on them. But what I want to say, too, is, like, I don't know if anyone was watching Golden State the other night and Mavs, but, like, man, I'll tell you what, the Mavs looked tired. In that fourth quarter, they were just beaten down. You could tell there was nothing left in the tank. And like credit where it's due. They've gone hard. It's been a tough game, but I mean, they were up a couple times in the series during games, like 20 points, and still are losing the games. Yeah. And it just goes to show, like, when you've got like a Tatum or you've got like a Curry, I mean, Steph can't miss. I don't know what else to say. I mean, the guy can't miss. He's rock solid no matter what he's doing, and he also always looks relaxed. That's what I pick up with Tatum too. Just a general sense of like,
oh, he's so poised. So poised. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're right. The thing is, if you notice, I've started to notice a pattern, especially taking a break from basketball, coming back. A lot of the teams that are good but not great enough to perhaps make it to the finals, if you notice, they have like a few good games that are absolute blowouts, right? Like Memphis, even during the whole like Denver series, they had a few games where it's like, wow, this team can really make it, but something happens. Maybe if it's the next game or the game after, whatever the case is, they show a little bit of cracks. I feel like maybe they run out of steam after that, whatever it is, right? But they show that. Whereas something like Golden State, especially Boston this year, every game is consistent. They don't blow up people. And if they do it, it is what it is. But it's because of defense rather than it is like blowing people out of the water from offensive stuff, right? So I don't know.
You know what's funny too with that too, Drew? Sorry to talk over you, man. I'll kick it in a second. What I'm noticing is like when one team's playing poorly, they're both playing poorly in these series as well. And that's what sort of is maybe to some degree making it a little bit more interesting to actually watch. Like the percentages have not been good. Yeah. I mean, the shooting percentages are not good. I think probably my favorite thing through the whole entire playoffs thus far has watching Cuban look like he's going to explode when the roof started leaking on the court. That was the best angry Cuban I've ever seen.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on the finals, bro?
Yeah.
My thoughts? I haven't been following it at all.
Well, like, okay,
I think my son was asking about like the 3-pointers, and surprisingly enough, Steph Curry has been the #1 shooter of all time for the threes.
He's so good, man. It's like I think it's one of those things where, and this goes to any sport, right? People always compare like now to older games and all this, and it's funny because like a lot of these athletes nowadays are way more athletic than people have been in the past. I'm not just talking about basketball; like you could talk about football, hockey, whatever. So in a way, it's like the people are more athletic. It's more analytical. The people are fighting the numbers and going through, to get certain ways and all this stuff. But Steph Curry in an age where people are like super buff, like these guys are arguably looking like freaking fridges. They're like, walking Maytag fridges, and they're huge. And it's like Steph Curry's not really that big. He's kind of like just a scrawny guy. I think he's like 6'3". He's not exactly like the tallest dude, but for him to actually fit in this kind of game is almost like that anti. For example, if you say, "Oh, players now can't play in the '90s," it's more like, he shouldn't be able to play now, but he does. And that's a little bit attesting to his greatness. But you know what, man? I gotta say one thing. I really think that Clay is underrated, though. Just because, like, I don't think he gets enough credit. The guy is super freaking clutch, and he does the mid range, the three. He does pretty much everything. On defense, he's not a liability. So I feel like a lot of what Steph goes through in terms of like getting his due, I think he owes a lot of it to Clay. And the league, to be honest, one of the reasons I quit is because they favor stars, right? They favor superstars. So, for example, even with Boston, everyone talks about Tatum. Maybe where you are, Sean, like it's like they talk about Brown and Smart.
It's a lot more, but yeah. You can see it though, yeah.
But out here, like outside of the heat of where, no pun intended, the heat of where like Boston is, everyone talks about Tatum. It's all Tatum. Like Boston Celtics, oh, that's Tatum's team. But what about Jaylen Brown? Like that guy drops 40 at any given moment if he wants to, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know, man. I'm just trying to give shout outs to some of these other guys that really need it.
Well, again, like we tweeted about this the other day. Like, look at Horford.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't a young cat, man. He's going out there and making things happen. But it's just like you said a minute ago with Clay. I think that Clay right now probably is getting his due, though, because when Curry was off the court, it was Clay's time to play very often during the series, where he was stepping up and he was doing things to keep it going, keep the ball, keep the momentum. And he was draining it pretty well, too. So for what it's worth, something to be said there. But you're right. That's a great call out. Like, I mean, just like you said about Curry, like look at Tatum. I mean, he's KD build, right? Like these are tall, really thin guys who we thought were sort of going to be the end of the NBA for these guys. Like we've got Zion coming in looking like a linebacker, and it's so funny. One of my favorite things to see. I was talking to my son about this. We were watching it. Is when they cut to Shaq and Barkley.
Yeah.
And then you get the two announcers in the middle. Oh my God, they're humongous. And like I get it, they're a little bit older, a little bit bigger now, but like just the size of these dudes, they're absolutely freak shows and they're huge. And like you're right, we went from that period of like you know what? By the way, I got to throw this out there. Have you guys seen Winning Time, the Lakers show? Oh my God! Listen. Even if you don't like sports, you don't like basketball, like Winning Time on HBO, oh my, amazing. It's about basically the rise of the Lakers. I mean,
cool. Okay.
It's amazing. It's funny. It's a good, well-written, really good. It's a series.
Winning Time. Okay.
Winning Time, it's a watch. It's a watch. You know what? I got two other things. I know we're going to talk about NBA, but I thought maybe I'd mixed up for just a second because Drew, I want to get you in the mix here. So this weekend we bought a new car.
No, you did?
It wasn't a choice.
Got it?
It wasn't a choice. So picked up a brand new Ferrari. No, I'm just kidding. It was Ferrari.
You're about to be Ty Lopez over here, man.
Yeah, I got nothing to sell. So we were driving an older Explorer, complete piece of crap. Like we just use it for like putting around the area.
Right.
It needs brakes. It needs tires. The back lift gate's not working. Mice got into the engine. It's a mess. Finally, now the struts let go, and I'm looking at the cost to do all this work, and I'm definitely too old to do it in my driveway. Years past, for sure, I would do my own work, not anymore. I'm looking at what this thing's probably worth, and I'm like, forget it. Let's just see if we can get a trade-in.
Right.
So my wife has wanted a Bronco Badlands for a long time. She likes a soft top, likes the look of it. We've never had that kind of a car before. And I don't care. So I was like, yeah, go and test drive it. I mean, see if you like it, and we'll see what we can do. But I was like, I'm going to be honest with you, like we're probably not going to get anything for the trade, so we may not pull the trigger for it.
Right.
Holy moly! Let me tell you something. If someone had come by my house and said, "Look, I'll throw you $3,000 for the Explorer," I would have been like, "Done." Call it.
What year Explorer was it?
It was a 2014, but like, keep in mind, man, I travel for work, so I'm driving up and down the coast. I'm getting, like, if I can't get a train on time, I'll jump in the car and drive, several hundred miles a day.
Yeah.
So like, there's considerations for like the amount of driving I put on that thing. And because my truck is too big to fit in a lot of garages in the cities, I take that when I go into the city for stuff.
Got it.
So she goes to the dealer. A couple of dealers, absolutely, as you expect, treat her like crap. Don't give her any respect. She goes in. We literally looked online to see who had a Bronco available.
Yeah.
3 dealers in my area, and when I say my area, I mean like she had to drive half an hour to get there. 3 Broncos and 3 in the area. She goes in. Oh well, we don't actually have one. Then she's pissed, and she goes to another dealership, and they're like, "Well, we could order one though, so we don't technically have it, but we could get it." And she's like, "What?"
Yeah.
So she calls me. She's like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "They're literally just running a scam to get you come in the door." And she's like, "The minute I walk in, they're pitching me on some other vehicle."
Yeah.
And of course, it's like, for the record, being in car sales, I'm sure, is insanely tough. There's no inventory, and it's a grind. That said, like, she drove an hour and a half to go to 2 dealerships for no reason.
Yeah.
She goes to a third dealer. They've got it. They've got it in. They call it race red. It's Ferrari red. Again, like they're sort of Spartan on the inside. So, but it's what she wanted. She's never had anything like that. And she starts talking to the dude. Ends up being like a pretty nice guy. Really giving her a lot of respect, which of course is a big deal. And so he of course calls and is like, "Hey, I want to talk about the trade." And she's like, "Well, talk to me." We're talking, and he's like, again, I negotiate for a living, so I'm pretty good at this. So, long story short, we're going back and forth. We're talking about Kelly Blue Book, and they're like, "Okay, well, how much do you need for it?" And I was like, "I need you to come back to me with what you're willing to pay your top price." I was like, "Otherwise, we just can't do this."
Right.
And he comes back on to. And this is over 100,000 miles, by the way. So this is guaranteed. It's going to an auction because of the mileage, right? They can't sell a 100,000-mile car on the lot.
Right.
So it's going to the auction either way. I know that ahead of time. And in my head, I'm like, if this dude throws me a number of like $4,000, I'm going to be like, yeah, done. Buy it. He comes back and he's like, listen, the best we can do is $12,000.
What?
I was like, 12, man.
That's awesome.
I was like, I don't want to
the trunk shop.
Well, of course, I'm like, I don't want to get ripped off. So I was like, 12 feels pretty low to me. I was like, I don't know, man. That's pretty crap. That's a pretty bad deal in my mind. And so he's like, I know. It's just, let me talk to my manager. The typical. And my wife, she's like, what did you say to him? They're all nervous now. And so long story short, they ended up throwing in a whole bunch of stuff and whatever and all this other crapola. And we got a little bit more than 12 for it. So
$12,000? Did you put something in the trunk? You said you drove up and down the coast, right? What you moving, man? What you moving out there?
Moving software, bro. So here's the thing. This thing's in such bad shape. I'm literally now driving the 45 minutes to get down to the dealership, and I leave in the morning. By the way, let me also mention, no heat, no AC, wipers are broken. I'm driving down there with all the windows open, the sunroof is open because it's 100 degrees up here this weekend. I'm sweating like a pig, and you can hear the belts are like, compressor's gone, the heat exchange is gone. This thing is a piece of crap. We get down there, and I literally like park it and just get out. And I'm not gonna say a word. We go in, we do all the paperwork, and so they were like, we gotta have an inspector take a look at it. And I was like, well, see, here's the thing though. You guys took a deposit from me yesterday, and we agreed on the price over the phone. And then I gave a deposit. And he's like, we still have to do an inspection. I was like, you can do whatever you want, but you're giving me $12,000 for that car.
Yeah.
And they were like, I think we don't have a choice. You put a deposit down based on the $12,000. I was like, that's right. So of course they're like, we can't even drive it. And,
Wait, it didn't even get to the garage, man.
They never even drove it out of the spot. As soon as they opened up the hood, they were like, well, it's going to go to the auction either way. So whatever. So all in all, I mean, the rep, great guy. It doesn't hurt him at all. It doesn't hurt me at all. It doesn't hurt anyone. It's just the dealer's not going to make as much of a vig on me as they thought they were going to make. So
right.
Win-win all around. The dude still got his commission. She got her new car that she likes, and I got to negotiate and get a good deal for myself. So I like that.
So you guys got a red Bronco in the driveway then?
There's a red Bronco, not currently in the driveway, but there's a red Bronco. Yeah. So go follow my blue F-150. So we got a little bit of America going on down here. Getting like a white dirt bike or something to park in the middle.
Get a flag on it or something.
I know it's true. Like, yeah. Well, the garage has got like a white door. Maybe just that covers it for the driveway.
Jude, have you had that? Have you had that experience at like dealers, man? Like where you are? Is that generally how it is?
Not really. I mean, there has been low inventory. I know we bought a car, like a van last year, and so like it was pretty pricey. I know we bought a Chrysler Pacifica, and it was like one of the lights was broken on like the sides, and then there's like some paint damage, and it's like
Oh, that's a
$23,000.
feature. That's a feature. The light
Yeah,
broken.
it's like $23,000 even with that, but it had 90,000 miles on it. So it's like, where are we gonna get another van like this in this kind of economy?
And so I'll tell you what, man. Like I just bought my truck was on a lease because my work pays for mileage, and so I try to lease things when I can, and I do that because you can lock in a good rate ahead of time. If I want to buy it, I buy it. If I don't, I don't. When I just went to actually buy it, I only owed, the deal that we signed. It's a 20. Oh shoot, I can't remember now. 2018 or 2019 F-150. It's an STX. It's nice. I mean, I love it. It's what I like to drive. I've always had trucks. We negotiated only $25K to buy it after 2.5 years on lease. And I remember the time the dealer was like, they definitely felt like they were getting a good deal on me. Like, when I get an F-150 25K, they're going to lease it for a couple of years. They were like, we'll literally give you $50,000 for the truck. If you
Wow, really?
There's up here in New England, man, there is no inventory. To buy a pickup truck right now, you're talking like 80, 90 grand.
Yeah, okay. Wow, that's okay. So out here, there's actually there's definitely less inventory, but there's a lot of cars being sold. Like there's a lot of cars. So where I am, I pass on the highway. I pass this one lot, and it's literally full of GM cars, like full. Like, it's like a farm area. Just fucking the whole thing is full of like just like Equinoxes and whatever other GM cars are there. For trucks, definitely there's a little bit of a deficit here for sure, but it's not. I don't see it as bad as you guys. I think. Also, I think the problem is for like I've never had that experience at dealers. By the way, Sean, that's messed up, man. Like the most I've ever gotten. I had to trade in like my 90 was a 99 Jeep Grand Cherokee, which is like still running. Everything was good. The guy gave me like $800 for it. I'm like, fuck it, take it. I don't care, right?
Yeah.
But never had it. Like I can haggle for anything. I just can't do it with cars because like as soon as I get into a dealership, my mind is just get in, get out, get in, get out. Like if it's a bad deal, I just walk. Like I don't even go back.
Yeah, I think the worst part of it is like it's just the fact that you're there for like 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like get me out of here. Like why isn't there an iPad where I just sign 20 places and you say see you later? Like,
yep, I know what you mean.
That's the truth of it. Like I actually part of the reason I fight on the price is just because I'm aggravated about spending 3 hours of my day there. I'm trying to buy a car, not a house, man. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But so it goes.
Did you test drive a Bronco though when you guys were there?
Did I?
Or did any of you guys test drive it?
Oh yeah, I mean she went down there ahead of time, drove it around and all that kind of stuff. When I got there, I test drove it. I'll tell you what she loves it, very happy with it. When the roof is down, my head is above the bar, so I can't drive it because I've got the crossbar right in my face.
What the hell? How tall are you, man?
I'm like 6'3".
Okay, what the fuck?
That's
why the Bronco's a big car.
Well, you know what the problem is like I don't know if it's just the way we had the seats configured or whatever, but like I couldn't get it right, and then I couldn't get comfortable.
Okay.
And, and so it was creating this like it was like watching a dual screen of above and below. It was distracting. It's a funny story. Actually, this is totally true and totally funny story. We're outside getting ready to like test drive it just to make sure, right? It's the same one she took the day. We checked out the day before.
Yeah.
Drove by on the street. I'll tell you why in a second. An F488 Pista drove by.
Okay.
Because two dealers down is the Ferrari of New England.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. So like just funny thing. We were talking the other day, like how often do you see Ferraris and Lambos? And I'm like, of course I see one when I'm buying it.
Yeah. It's weird actually because where I moved to is oddly similar, but so where I moved it's kind of more of like a farming town for the most or not, kind of an industrial town for the most part. They have like factories and stuff, right? But I think because of like Canadian real estate prices, guys, I don't know if you know, but it's like ridiculous. It's shot up in the past 10 years. If you look at a map, it's like freaking ridiculous. It went up. This house the house I'm in 2011 or sorry 2014 when it sold first time, it sold for like 400,000. Okay, right now I bought it for $1,060,000. So and then like right now it's already valued. It's already valued at 1.25, and I've only been here less than a year. It's honestly crazy, right? So I think a lot of people have been pulling their equity because there's a guy down the street that has an Aston Martin DB11. There is another guy with a Lambo, and it's funny because the houses that they're in are like you would never think these people own these cars. They're like little Matchbox houses. I'm like, who the fuck is doing this stuff? Like either they're really bad with money or they have their house paid off or something.
Drew, where do you live again? What state are you in?
Virginia.
Okay. So this is going to be relevant to why I'm asking. So I'm definitely in what is now an expensive area, but it wasn't when I moved in. Like when we
Right.
moved here, you were spending like in the 200s to buy a house, right? Like you wanted a really nice house, you're going to the 300s, okay? Like you're living the dream. And like my next door neighbor who has basically the identical house, pretty much the identical house, didn't even put it on the market. Basically got $1 million right off the bat. And so we're like, I know my way around finances, like that's my background and everything. But like, even with that being said, it's amazing to think like we could sell for so much more. This is a really interesting point, but I got to ask a question because Drew, I'm sure it's not like that where you are. Like, there's definitely no one in my area driving a Lamborghini.
Well, there's a few Lamborghinis in our area. Like,
really?
There's a bunch of old money. Yeah, so there's a lot of old money. This used to be like a freight hub, and so people would have like farms and all this other stuff. So there's like an area. I live in Lynchburg, Virginia. So like there's areas where there's like really old houses that have been there for, I don't know, 100, 200 years. And so there's one guy, one of my old landlords, he actually owns a Ferrari, and it was funny because like he was basically debating, like he had this weird rich guy debate. He's like, oh, like, do I get this Ferrari? And his wife was like, you'd be an asshole if you did. And he got one anyway. But there's other people that have like G8 or like R8s.
Wow.
I've seen Porsches. I've seen an i8 and BMW i8. I've seen a Lambo. I've seen crazy stuff. But most of the stuff around here is pretty low. But what you were saying, around the 200, you have a pretty decent house. I know we had gotten our house USDA a couple years ago for like 127 and sold it like 3 years later for like 167, I think.
Drew, that's a really good point that doesn't come up a lot. Could you explain what the USDA is? Because like I'm familiar with what it is because this is a rural area, but I bet a lot of people don't know what that is in the U.S.
I got no idea.
Yeah. So basically, what it is it's I think it's only in the U.S. But you can buy a house in a county, so not into a city or anything like that. And basically, you can do 0% down, and then the only downside is that you have to pay a smaller PMI, like the principal mortgage insurance or whatever. I forget what it's exactly called, but you have to pay a certain amount. It's lower, but you still have to do it through the whole life of the loan. So say like everything is starting to go up, then you're kind of screwed. You can't refinance, but over time, you refinance it.
That's amazing, actually, man. That's really cool. Like over here, so I'm in Toronto, and there's like really, really a lot of restrictions for you to buy a home. So like, I say like the house is worth $1 million, but if you looked at it, you would never pay that much for it, right? So it's like, it's one of those. But then that's also because the barrier to entry is really hard. Like they have this thing called a stress test, and I barely met it with all my assets and everything. So it's like really stupid. But yeah, that's pretty cool, actually. It's a pretty interesting system. Is it like, Sean, is this one of those things that like, or could cause like issues or whatever, like especially during the whole like GFC and all that?
No, because it's a fixed rate, and it's based on real appraisals. It's a government program for rural areas that are pre-designated, and there's a cap on how much they even have for the program. So like if you don't get in early and get access to it, there will be no more. So they
got it.
Yeah, that's why it's such a unique and good program. It's not for everybody, to be fair. It's not for every area per its design. But like I'll give you an example. Like if you look at Massachusetts, where I am, it's a small state, but like Boston is insanely dense, like insanely dense.
Right.
Just a little bit outside of Boston, and you're in the woods. I mean, when people think of Massachusetts, they think of Boston or like maybe Cape Cod, but like the entire like rectangle of the state for the most part is pretty darn rural. Not completely, but like pretty rural.
Yeah, it's the same here. Yeah.
I did ask though. So like, I don't live in Canada. Drew doesn't either. And I know I have because I work in analytics and software. We have a lot of stuff up in Canada. I cover Canada.
Yeah.
One thing I can never understand, and I'm actually really curious about this, is Canada is so big. So is the U.S. for that matter. These are humongous countries, right? And they're vastly underpopulated when you look at the overall size of the countries. What is driving the pricing so insane in the Canadian market? Because it is insane. All the people I work with make good money. They can't afford homes, man.
I know.
The younger ones, anyways. What's going on?
They're priced out, man. Like I'm out of all my friend circle, I'm the only person that owns a house. There's one other person who's in the process of buying, but it's like, it's a very long process. The banks suck. But I have a theory on this. I don't know what the real reason is. For a while they were blaming foreign investors. It's not really the case. But the reality of the situation, and let me know what you think about this. But I think the main problem is, if you look at Canada in general, most people just want to pretty much only want to go to two places. It's either Vancouver or Toronto. Toronto is like basically, like pseudo New York, Boston, basically, right? It's like a huge ass city. It's very, very big. And even here where I am in a suburb, I'm about an hour away from the metropolis, I guess. But even here, it's like, that whole splash damage of real estate still peaks out here. But if you go, for example, 2 hours further west or north or whatever the case is, it's a little bit less so. So you have like a massive inflow of people that are only wanting to go to two places. Canada, actually, the government tries to give people more incentive to go to places like Calgary, like anywhere in the prairies, right? But they just don't want to go. So, for example, in the middle of the country, there's a whole bunch of oil, right? The oil sands and all this stuff, like the whole Keystone Pipeline, right? So they want to go there, and they were even subsidizing jobs. Like there's some good jobs. Like a friend of mine moved out there to do some work in the oil sands, and he was earning like 120 grand. This was like 5-6 years ago, which is pretty good money at the time, especially for there, because the price house you could buy a nice house for like 200,000 Canadian, right? For somebody who's making 120, that's like you can have a free house in 5-6 years. So the government was like, please go. We'll even like get you a job with Suncor or whatever the case is with these companies. They just don't take it. They don't take it. Like people, they flock to Toronto like it's no tomorrow. Like Pearson is one of the craziest airports I've seen every time I go there. Vancouver as well. Like Vancouver, the housing is a little bit worse in terms of pricing, but people go there for scenery. It's a little more relaxed. It's more like the whole West Coast California type deal. So it's like that. So whenever anyone talks about Canada, it's Toronto or Vancouver. That's the problem. That you have a lack of, and on top of that, with this with everything that's happened throughout COVID, all the wood prices and stuff like that, the builders stopped building. So for the past 2-3 years, and now they're starting to build again, but the supply was like really, really low. So it was going up because of the immigration, all this stuff, and the government is very pro immigration and stuff, right? So it's going up because of that, but it went up even higher because of all the prices for raw materials and all these things, combined with the fact that builders were just not building. Like where I am, there are 3 new developments that have been going on since 2018, and there's not a single piece of wood that's been laid until now. So it's like, now it'll calm down, but it's not going to really go down. It might just stagnate for a bit, I think.
It's funny though, because like I was looking on like Sotheby's real estate, and I was just looking at Canada, and like you can see why it's very unique. Like when we think about like some of the large, gigantic homes that are for sale for big money around here, it usually means there's also land. But they're older, but it's a classic mansion type of deal, especially down in Virginia, right, where Drew is. Up here, we've got more like in Boston, we've got like big townhouses and big blocks of a street.
Right.
The stuff they're building in Canada are these like mega mansions that are insane, but they also don't have any property with them, which maybe is better off, sort of like an executive home. But like you see this stuff, and it's like, wow, man, I can't believe. But I suppose even I answer my own question. It's just this is the nature of how we're building. We're not worried about going out and doing big things with it, right? Like people selling the backyards just to make an extra dime so they can put another house back,
Yeah, no, for sure. And the problem here too, by the way, like with Toronto, is there's really only like maybe 3 or 4 sort of smaller, I guess, cities around Toronto that people want to move to. Where I am is definitely not one of them, but it's one that's starting to pick up. Like there's a place called Oakville, and Oakville, Canada is like, I would say probably the richest people in the country. The houses don't look like it, by the way. Like if you look at it, you'd be like, what they would never pay anything more than a certain amount for it, but they go for like 8 times that price. And it's pretty crazy. And there's another place called like Mississauga Road, Bridle Path. It's like what Drew said, actually. It's like there's a lot of old money. There's a lot of old money here, a lot. And these guys just don't move out of the neighborhood, so it just keeps driving the price up, combined with the whole like builder situation. But
there's this like pattern that repeats everywhere you go, where it's like within a major area there is like the general middle class but sort of priced out section. There's the sort of like lower income, a heavily rented area, and then there's like that really small enclave of like really high wealth. And because I travel so much for work, everywhere you go, you see the same thing. And I also, there's this theme we have when we travel. We call it like, every strip mall. If you're in a certain areas, right? Every strip mall has like a strip club a loan cashing place, and then a church. Because like you spend it and blow it, you got to get some more, then you feel sorry and go to church after.
It's the Holy Trinity.
You see that everywhere we go with the same thing over and over and over again. And it's just funny, like it just follows the same patterns. And same with the housing piece. Like out in Dallas, for example, like they have Preston Hollow, which is like pretty much a lot of the wealthiest people in the U.S. live there. And it's small. But then you've got like then the houses are a little bit more middle class, and then it's like really rough areas. It just repeats everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And it's funny too because like where I own rentals, there was a time, not anymore now, where like you could buy them in the 5 digits, and we charge really low rent. So like we're actually trying to do the right thing and really help people. But like unfortunately, like we're just seeing where like those areas where traditionally you at least could go and get affordable rent or housing are getting like this non-existent. I think about this right now. What you just said a minute ago, Shibari, about like what you paid, and I think about the fact that like you're established in a good career, working in a growing field, and none of your friends, for the most part, can afford it. I see the same thing. Like I work with people who do really well, and like they have. The problem isn't that they don't want to buy a house. The problem is like when the starting price is 100. I mean, like think about what that monthly cost is. It's insane if you have nothing to put down. We see it up here too. Like, I'll drop the point, but like we just see the same thing where like you buy a 7-figure home, then you've got 2 brand new cars on the driveway, and those cars now are $50K a piece. And like, before you know it, you're like, hey, I want to make a final point. Just on the finance topic. Yesterday I was at soccer for my daughter's soccer practice. And as usual, I'm just sitting there in a chair alone, drinking my coffee and listening to my headphones after work. And one of the dads, who's a friend of mine, he's a pretty legit financial advisor. And I know a lot of people nowadays don't use financial advisors or whatever. But I almost would encourage people to like rethink this. There's been a big change in that industry. So he's got he himself has about 200 million AUM. So not huge, but like he manages a decent sized AUM for his customers. And I said, what's the biggest thing you're telling your people right now that would surprise me? He said, we're telling them all they should be using margin.
Really? Okay.
And it's, because the margin rates they're getting are so low compared to the rates they're going to get in the market now at these prices. No, I mean,
that's fair.
Like, so anyone doesn't, I'm not saying 100% of margin, but like take an extra 5 or 10% of your available. In if you're only going to pay 2 or 3% for that, the amount of places you can get 8 to 12% right now, it's a no-brainer. And he's also not talking about younger people. He's like, if you've got a retirement portfolio of $1 million or more, say, right? Like grabbing 50K out of that to accelerate your earnings is a no-brainer right now. And I said, yep, that was surprising. I didn't expect to hear that.
No, that's true. I don't know how different it is for you, Drew, but like I know for up here, there's some of the brokers actually. And if you guys are watching, if you're using a broker, or not broker, like Questrade or whatever the case is, right? One of those Thinkorswim, whatever. There's actually a margin. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a margin limit. So if you click the stock that you're trying to buy, at the bottom there's a limit, and it tells you what they're willing to like foot you, right? So if in the case of like Tesla or Palantir, for my brokerage, it's 50%. So if I want to take if I want to buy $100,000, I have to at least come up with 50 grand. So I play around with that. Like if I'm buying like a $10,000 buy, I won't just put 5, I'll put 6, but I'll go margin for 40, like 4,000, right? Just because if it goes up or down, some of these stocks are volatile. If you don't hit that 50% mark, and it doesn't margin for you.
Yeah,
all right, guys, I think we'll wrap it up. We had like a really mixed bag on this one, but it's always rushed and messed up, just like our podcast always is. But I need predictions, Sean. What do you think, man? I know today is the Celtics Heat game. What do you think? Blowout?
If you look at the historical numbers for Celtics going to the playoffs, it would be astronomical for them not to make it at this point.
Right. Okay. All right. So you're booking the Celtics for a win. I think it's going to be close this time. I think Celtics still going to win this one, but it's going to be a closer one. It's going to give them a little bit more of a fight, I think.
Butler has to shine. Butler has to shine to make it a game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Lowry has to stop giving bagels, man. I mean, he's got to score some points. Come on.
Yeah, agreed.
Right. Drew, what do you think, man? I know you're not like a huge B-ball guy, but you got to make a prediction, man. You're on the show. You got to do it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Golden State.
Yeah, well, for the finals? Okay, cool. But what about today for Miami and Boston? You think Boston's got it?
Yeah, I'll go with Celtics. Yeah,
man. I think we'll have more of these since like the finals are just starting up. It's probably going to be a little bit fun to watch and all that stuff. So we'll do that. Until then, I think that's it, guys. We'll catch you guys in the next week episode. But yeah, Drew, any closing thoughts, you guys?
I don't have any today.
Waiting to hear about Drew's Ferrari. That's what I'm waiting on.
And he's not telling
It's
us.
in the
It's sitting
garage.
in the garage.
Yeah.
It's an old GTO, you know.
It's a little small.
All right, we'll catch you guys later. See you, everyone.
We'll see you. Thank you.